3, 2, 1. Right here. 4 tires of fuel.
Right, one.
Outside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Field Podcast, episode number 16. And we got a special one today. We've got a special guest, Dalton Good. How's it going, man?
What's going on, everybody? This is Dalton Good, a.k.a. Dalton Good 18 on Twitter. Kyle Busch's #1 fan, Joe Logano's #1 hater. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Glad to have you on. It's our second guest on the podcast. It's a big one. And, man, just like I was telling you a couple weeks ago, I think you're like the biggest Kyle Busch fan that at least I know of out on Twitter. So
Yes,
it's awesome. It's awesome to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
That's just on Twitter. I mean, look at this guy's background. It's just insane. I mean, you got more than just Kyle Busch. You got the Vols back there, the Preds, got the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, Carolina Panthers flags over there. You can't see it, but yep. Yeah, I'm all decked out. I'm still buying stuff too.
Yeah, I before this podcast, I was watching the Lightning and Columbus game. And then it was 6 hours later, finished just in time for us to record 5 overtimes. And, and now got Dalton, and he's got the M&M's Hazelnut. That's one of my favorite Kyle Busch paint schemes. I love when Kyle Busch runs the M&M's Hazelnut car. Yeah,
I'd like to bring it back. It wasn't all that good luck. I mean, I know it won one race in Pocono, but it's just like they weren't supposed to run the Hazelnut scheme in the playoffs. Like, it was supposed to be all yellow for the M&M's races in the playoffs, but then they decided to run the Hazelnut scheme for the first part of it, and it just kept getting bad finishes over and over and over again. Like at Las Vegas, I know they could have had a top 5, but then they had that contact with Garrett Smithley, got him a 19th place finish. He did rebound with a second place at Richmond with that car, but then at the Roval, he got a DNF, and then Talladega got wrecked when he could have won. And then they finally moved it to the yellow scheme, and then it got a 7th at Texas, a 2nd at Phoenix, and ended up winning the championship. So I think getting rid of that Hazelnut scheme in the playoffs last year was probably the best thing they've ever done.
Yeah, they got rid of the scheme, but then, that just intrigued me to go out and try some M&M's Hazelnut, and that's honestly one of my favorites. It's not as good as M&M's Crispy. M&M's Crispy still
Yes,
best
pretzel.
M&M.
Yes.
Pretzel. It's pretzel.
Get rid of the pretzel.
Get out of here, dog.
No pretzels. No pretzels.
Yeah.
We don't like those.
M&M's Crispy all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and a spoiler alert for those of you that haven't tried the fudge brownies yet, the hazelnut and the fudge brownie literally almost taste the same.
Really?
Like, I'm not gonna lie. I did a review on it like back when the fudge brownies came out, and they literally taste the same thing. I even bought a bag of hazelnut M&Ms to go with it, and then I chewed them all together, and I'm like, it's the same thing. Did you mix it up the bags or what?
Yeah, we tried one time when they had the M&M's caramel was new, and he ran the paint scheme back in like 2017. My friend and I went to Target and Five Below. My friend decided they had salted caramel Pepsi. So we decided to get both of those and try it together. It wasn't too bad. I will say it wasn't too bad. I'm not too big on like weird flavored sodas. So I think I'd hold off with that. But M&M's caramel was pretty good. Honestly, if they had like a dark chocolate M&M, that might be the one that I don't like. But like I'm not too big on dark chocolate, but all the other M&Ms seem to do fine for me, except pretzel. I cannot stand M&M pretzel.
There's just something about it. The sweet and salty just mix so good. But peanut butter is a close second. Give me a big bag of
M&M's peanut butter is so good.
I'm not a peanut butter guy. I'm sorry. I'm not even a caramel guy either. I'm all just regular chocolate, crispy, the hazelnut spread, and the fudge brownies. And actually the M&M minis. I don't know why. I know they're the
same. Those taste so much better.
They do. I will say.
I know they're the same thing as regular chocolate, but it's just it hits different. Like I guess it's easier to eat or easier to chew. I don't know, but like M&M's minis, man.
There's just something about it. Like when you were a kid and you had that little like medicine bottle and you just pop that top and you're like, yeah, what's up? And then you just chug a whole bunch of M&M's minis and they just so much better.
I'll make a promise right now. If Kyle Busch wins, I will shotgun 2 bottles of M&M's minis.
We will
All
hold
right.
you to that. We will
Yep.
hold you to that.
Whenever that happens, whenever that.
Folks, you heard it here first on the Foreign Fuel Podcast.
I'm just waiting now. Kyle, give me a win so I can do it.
So it's like drinking water. Like, it's different waters, different brands. They taste different. Like, water has different tastes. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like that. It's like, well, regular M&Ms and M&Ms Mini, it's just different size. No, it tastes different. Like, it's just like a whole new thing. And
Yeah.
the same thing, I've heard people say, well, Reese's Pieces are just M&M's peanut butter, or vice versa. Nah, M&M's peanut butter are way better than Reese's Pieces. I'm a big Reese's guy, but I will take M&M's peanut butter over Reese's any day of the week. And Kyle Busch's M&M's peanut butter car is really nice, and they didn't run it enough. I felt like they just didn't run it enough.
That scheme was pretty good. I did like I got a diecast up here, but I did like the red M&M had that peanut butter hairdo on the quarter panel.
Mm-hmm.
I wish someone could find me like spare sheet metal of that so I can hang it up somewhere, because that was probably my favorite, one of my favorite M&M schemes. I know it didn't run much, but and again, I'm not really that much of a peanut butter guy, but it was a pretty good scheme.
Mm-hmm. Now, so want to welcome Steve back. I didn't really mention Steve. Steve's rocking the that Regan Smith.
Yeah, it is. It's a Regan Smith Tax Slayer crew shirt that I found on eBay. Back when I was a pretty big Regan Smith fan when he was still running for Junior Motorsports, so I had to pick this up because it was like $20 or something. So.
Oh, we thought you got it just for the podcast. I thought you just bought it for the podcast.
No, I contemplated wearing my Jeff Gordon shirt, but I found this first, and I was like, oh, I haven't worn this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So popped that on, got my John Hunter Nemechek Nemco Motorsports hat on.
Nice.
So watch out for Steve to spin out here on this podcast.
He's not to blow a tire.
So I want to jump into Dalton. So I typically ask this, how did you, get into NASCAR? How old were you? When was it? And what got you into it? And obviously, what got you to be a Kyle Busch fan?
Okay, so this is kind of going to be a boring story, but this is kind of how I got to Kyle. But it started when I was 4 years old. I started off as a Terry Labonte fan. My dad was already a NASCAR fan, and he pulled for Davey Allison, and then he pulled for Dale Earnhardt. But he still kept watching the sport. And when I was 4, I would always watch races with him. And I just liked that Terry Labonte Frosted Flakes scheme that he had. Like, I was just a big fan of it. I loved eating Frosted Flakes for breakfast every morning when I was young. I still eat them, by the way. I even eat them for dinner. but anyway, yeah. So it was just something about that Tony the Tiger scheme that I really liked. I know it was terrible luck for Terry Labonte, but it just kind of made me a fan. Who knew that a paint scheme would make you a fan of NASCAR? But yeah, that's how it all got started. And then I started pulling for NASCAR obviously when Terry was getting ready to retire. So Kyle Busch ended up taking the 5 car the very next couple years, and I thought, you know what? I guess I'll just pull for the next guy in the 5 car. And then it was honestly the best decision I ever made. I ended up watching Kyle win his first race at Bristol, which was also the first race with the car tomorrow. And then he moved on to Joe Gibbs Racing. I still became a fan of his, and that's pretty much how it all got started.
So with Kyle Busch, when did you really become diehard like you are now? Like, when was it really like, this is it, Kyle Busch is my guy, just focused on it, like there's nothing changing that?
Well, I mean, really when it began in the 2007 season, that's when I remember I kept missing, a couple races back in when I started watching. But, 2007 was the year that I started watching full time. Like, I told my mom and dad, I want to watch racing on Saturdays and Sundays. And so that's basically where it kind of began, that's kind of when my diehard fandom began. And then in 2008, when he moved to Joe Gibbs Racing, he started winning a lot more races. That's just when it grew. And, I'm not going to lie, it kind of grows every single year. But, yeah, basically that's when it all started.
So was there any thought, like, in between 07 and 08 when they said Kyle Busch is not come back to Hendrick and he's going to Toyota, he's going to Joe Gibbs Racing, was there ever a thought, oh, well, maybe I'll become a Casey Mears fan or a Dale Jr. fan at Hendrick or a Jeff Gordon fan because he's at Hendrick? Or was it always just Kyle Busch all the way, no matter what car he's driving, what team he's racing for.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When he moved to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2008, I didn't know if I wanted to be honest with you, but I just decided that okay, I'm just gonna stick to it. But then in 2008, that's when he started, getting good. And then I just thought, well, if he's gonna win that much at Joe Gibbs Racing, I guess it's no sense of me leaving now.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I'd feel bad if all of a sudden you gave up being a Kyle Busch fan, you went to go being a Casey Mears fan. Like that hurts my heart just thinking about it.
Well, you know what? I got a funny story. I didn't know if I wanted to embarrass myself on here, but I'm not gonna lie. I actually thought of being a David Stribby fan.
Oh no!
I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why. I mean, you're stupid when you're young, right? But yet, well, thank God I did now because that would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't have any championship flags up, no race win diecast, nothing.
Just don't ask why. Don't ask about the David Stribby bar. I don't know. I was stupid when I was young, so let's just forget that. Yeah, Kyle Busch all the way.
Yeah, honestly, so when I was younger, I started watching that I can remember. I started watching in 06. 06 is the first season I vividly remember watching. I went to my first race. Obviously, people know. Even Jeff Gordon knows I was at the 06 Pocono race where he crashed. Denny Hamlin got his first win. And, I mean, I even told Jeff Gordon that I cried when he hit the wall in 06. He was just like, yeah, I'm just lucky I got out of that one without being hurt.
Yeah.
And – yeah, so it was always Jeff Gordon for me. Steve was always Jeff Gordon.
Yep, always.
And now we went our different ways. I went to the 11. Steve stayed with the 24 until Chase changed to the 9. And
yep.
Now
you 9 all the way.
At least we're doing this podcast down the line from Darlington because I may have had to separate you two because.
Do thank God that fans were not allowed in Darlington. I guarantee it was Richmond 2008 all over again. I will say this: there would have been a lot of Chase Elliott fans that would have been charged with murder that night.
Literally, that's what it felt like. But thankfully, I think for the first hour and a half, I was really saying about every name under the sun for Kyle Busch, and then it's once I really got a good look at the replay, it's let's think about this logically, but that's the problem with the fan base of just about any driver, but we could say of probably majority Chase Elliott fans, because a lot of them are Earnhardt fans. So, you touch the driver and man, you're wrong. You're dead to me. And
we'll see. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Kyle was just trying to move up in front of Harvick because Harvick had that huge run coming off of 4, and he's just trying to move up and completely misjudged and hooked Chase. I mean, it was unfortunate, but at the end of the day, you can see that it's I don't even know how many laps there were, but we're inside 10 to go at that point, and you can't give up track position. So when Harvick had the huge run, Kyle just had to block it at that point. So
yeah. Well, you see, I remember that day. I was praying that day would never happen. I just did not want another 2008 Richmond all over again. But you see, when that happened, I mean, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you guys know I'm a big trash talker. Yeah. But when that happened, I knew Kyle messed up right away. Okay, I knew it was his fault. I knew oh no, this is gonna be bad. So I usually trash talk, of course, but I was thinking about logging off. I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm not full with this. But then I had a lot of Chase Elliott fans yell at me it was my fault. I had a couple Chase Elliott fans come to me on Twitter and say, "Hey, Dalton, F you, F your driver. F you." Yeah. I'm like, I don't drive the car. What are you yelling at me for? But that's kind of when the rivalry of me and Chase Elliott fans kind of began. I mean, I don't hate Chase Elliott. It's just some of his fans that are kind of crazy, just like Dale Jr. fans. But, again, I knew Kyle messed up. I knew that it was his fault. But, again, just thank God fans were not allowed at Darlington. And, it just would have been a bad situation.
So everyone knows on Twitter that follows you that You hate Joey Logano. So when did
Yeah.
this hatred really? What does it stem from? When did it start?
All right, this should be fun. So now when Joey Logano came into the sport back in 2009 with Joe Gibbs Racing, I mean, I liked the guy. I mean, he was a JGR teammate. He was taking over Tony Stewart. So I really wanted the guy to be successful. And, of course, he got his first career win in a rain-shortened race at New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, it's cool. He got his first win. He could start doing something, start getting competitive. But then right after that, from 2010 to 2011, he just continued to do nothing. He kept continuing to be the worst car in Joe Gibbs Racing. So when the 2012 season came along, or late 2011, I'm like, yeah, he ain't going to last long at Joe Gibbs Racing. But he ended up moving to Penske, of course. But, I still liked him. I wished him the best. I was sad he left, but coming into 2013, I still liked him. But it basically began at California 2013. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
So I went to the Bristol race where Denny and Joey got together. And, of course, Joey had that fight with Denny, said, I'm coming for you the very next week. And then it happened again at California. They got into each other. And I know it's just racing. It was just a racing deal. But what ticked me off the most is that when I was watching Race Hub all week that week on Radioactive, Joey Logano said, now we're even. And even worse, I know a lot of people are going to say, he didn't know that Hamill was hurt when he said that. I mean, yes, but I remember the Speed Channel was asking about, Denny being in the hospital. And Joey said, we got safe cars. I'm sure he's fine. And Denny Hamlin hit it right on the head, saying, you can't just say that we're invincible. We can still get hurt. We can still die. I mean, we learned that from Ryan Newman this year in the Daytona 500, right? You can still get hurt and you can still die. I mean, luckily, we haven't had any more deaths since Dale Earnhardt, and I hope that streak continues. But that's kind of when I started getting mad at him. But, a couple of years later down the road, I started to get over it. I mean, it's history. But then we flash forward to 2015, where Kenseth was fighting to get into the next round of the playoffs. I mean, Joey Logano already has a win, and he's out. And Logano has a win, and Kenseth's out trying to get in the next round. And Logano just spins him out. I mean, I know people are going to say that Kenseth was blocked twice. If you get blocked twice, you're going to get turned. I mean, what else could have Kenseth done? I mean, he's fighting for his playoff host. I mean, that's what you got to do in this new playoff system. And Joey just turned him right around. And then the very next week at Martinsville, that made me happy. It was just sweet revenge. And then last but not least, we go to Las Vegas 2017, where Kyle wasn't having a good first two races. He blew a tire at the Daytona 500, and then the very next week at Atlanta, he struggled, got a 15th place finish, ran 15th all day. And then we go to Las Vegas. He's about to get a top 5 finish, and I know he wasn't going to win, but I thought, this is going to be momentum. We're going to finally get our season started. And then Joey just spun him out of a good finish, and then that's basically where my hatred with Logano began.
Yeah, and it's funny just when you add on to that Kenseth incident. I think there was Talladega in between, and Kenseth almost got wrecked by him again
on pit road. Yeah,
on pit road, and that's when Kenseth was just like, "That's it. Like, I'm done with this guy." Like, and then Brad takes him out at Martinsville when Matt's in second. And to this day, I still don't know how Jeff Gordon gets by that wreck. He was right in the bad spot where he should have gotten hit. And then he almost got hit by Kurt Busch coming back in turn 3.
Yeah.
And I will say, I was never too big on Matt. He had his run-ins with Jeff. And that was the one race. Is like, man, thank God for Matt Kenseth, because I don't know if Jeff Gordon would have had the car to beat Logano that day.
Jeff Gordon fans were all Matt Kenseth fans that day.
I was a Matt Kenseth fan that day.
I think if there's a race I wish that I wasn't at, and I wish I was at, it'd be that race. If there was a race I could just go back in time and go to, it'd be that race. 100%. I want to be there for when Kenseth did it, because that crowd erupted.
Sounds like Earnhardt took the lead.
I erupted at my house. But and another thing that I don't like about Joey Logano is I don't like how he runs away from fights. Like last year at Martinsville, for an example, when he got in a fight with Denny Hamlin, it was just an argument, they're being civil, and then he just taps him on the chest and starts walking away.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you gonna be a man or not? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just slap somebody in the chest and just start walking away without getting into a fight. So that's another reason why.
Well, even back to California 2013, where he ran Tony Stewart all the way down to the grass, and then tries to throw a water bottle at Stewart.
Yeah, this is his biggest weapon. Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because it was real tough guy in the at the end of Martinsville last year. Real tough guy on the 22 crew that really had to be tough and go behind Hamlin and take him down from behind. I was
Dude,
like,
he
yeah, what a
killed
real
him.
tough guy. Like, yeah, let's slam a guy to the pavement from behind. You know, maybe it'll hurt him. And oh my God. Yeah, Logano getting the bump, and Logano said, "You want to go?" And Denny was like, "Yeah, let's go."
Yeah.
And then Logano's running away, and it was funny because Todd Gordon's just there. He's like, "Stop it!
Yeah. My favorite part of that whole story is that on your Twitter, and I quote, Joey Logano is a squinty-eyed douchebag, but can't forget, and God is number one. That's my favorite part of the whole story.
My famous bio. I switched it around lately. It was Brad Keselowski's a horse-faced douchebag and got his number one, but now I'm just keeping Logano on there.
Yeah.
He earned my respect to leave that on there in my bio.
So So if you had other secondary drivers to root for in the Cup Series, who would those be?
Well, one of them would be Kurt Busch. I mean, because Kurt Busch, he's a decent driver. He's the other Busch brother. That would probably be the biggest one, but Kurt's not that far from retirement, unfortunately. But I mean, I do like Clint Boyer, even though he's not doing anything that good either. He could be near retirement soon. He might be out of a ride next year. I mean, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I also like the JGR teammates as well. I like Paul for Truex. I like Denny Hamlin. I'm really a big fan of Eric Jones, and also the new rookie Christopher Bell. But that's about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm always big on the young guys. I don't hate anyone on the Gibbs guys. I do like William Byron. Never liked Chase Elliott. I don't know. Chase Elliott he didn't do anything to me, but it just I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. He's so bland. He's just
okay. And William Byron's not bland. William Byron is the most vanilla personality.
He's not Jimmy Johnson. Come on, Jimmy Johnson's the most vanilla personality in the sport.
You never see William give any emotion.
Hey, did you see what William Byron said on Radioactive this week at Michigan?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen Radioactive.
He said he was gonna go wreck somebody. Well, obviously with more expletives. I don't know who he was talking about, but then Tab Boyd was like, "Go do it."
It was some kind of lap car. It was one of them backfielders. I don't know who it was, but you see, this is why I don't take this serious. You have every driver that always says, I'm going to wreck this guy. I'm going to take this guy out if he does this again. But they just never do it.
Mm-hmm.
They always say they're going to do it, but they never do. I'm like, okay, if you're not going to do it, then just shut up,
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't like how Chase Elliott handled the whole Hamlin thing. Okay, yeah, Denny wrecked him. Yes, I understand. Chase Elliott braked halfway down the back straightaway for no reason. Denny Hamlin drove it in deeper than him, and Chase Elliott couldn't handle a bump. I mean, and then the fans are like, well, Denny Hamlin's just a dirty racer. Chase Elliott's just so clean. But then Chase Elliott goes to Phoenix and just hooks it right on Hamlin off of 4. Obviously Chase Elliott's going to do the same thing to Denny Hamlin, race, and then he blew it to a guy on his way out. That was the best part when Chase Elliott lost that race. That was the best part. He lost it to Matt Kenseth, who's out on his way out of the sport. And Matt Kenseth gets a final win, beating Chase Elliott. So, I don't know. I don't hate Chase Elliott, but I don't root for him. Obviously on Saturday it was. I don't know why Chase Elliott doesn't choose the bottom to try to win. Chase Elliott's I'm in second. It's not like I haven't gotten the lead before on the bottom. Let me just sit behind Harvick on this restart. Maybe I could beat him. I don't know. Some of these guys, Chase Elliott's not aggressive enough for me. I don't know. He should have more wins than he has. I think he should already be in the double digits in wins. And the beginning of his career, he seemed to choke a lot, especially on late race restarts. He could not figure it out.
It was the 24 effect. He couldn't get a good late race restart going.
Man, can you believe 24 car still has not been to victory lane since 2015?
I know.
Well, another reason is he's from Georgia. Georgia's the choke city in all sports.
Oh man, yeah. Steve is a
Bad
Falcons
time.
fan,
Yeah,
so
bad
this
time
is
to mention that too. Chase Elliott.
28-3 lead.
Ouch. Was not expecting that kind of. Oh.
Steve was not prepared for the
No,
Falcons
not
to be brought
prepared
up
for that, man.
tonight.
I know.
It's a Carolina Panthers fan thing.
And luckily, I'm the Giants fan, and the Giants only got one loss in the Super Bowl. You know, we got 4 wins. We'll
You beat
take
Tom
it.
Brady.
Yeah, we beat Tom Brady twice. Maybe it's just a thing. Maybe I root for 4-time champions. You know, Jeff Gordon, the Giants. Maybe it's just a 4-time kind of deal. But it's interesting now that Bell is actually in the 20 next year. Eric Jones being out. I said last week Eric Jones is going to the 48 and or a Hendrick car, whatever number they want to put him in. They want to put him in the 88 and go him to the 48 or something weird like that, or they bring the 5 car back or the 25. I don't know. But I could see him going there, definitely. I don't know. We haven't heard your guys' take on it. So, Steve, I want to hear yours first. What do you think is going to happen with Eric Jones?
Yeah, I definitely think you can look at the obvious in Hendrick Motorsports, and but we're not really seeing a whole lot more openings. I mean, we were talking about this before the podcast. What could be available for 2021, and obviously there's a car open at Hendrick. 1, maybe 2 cars open at Stewart-Haas. I think Boyer's the only one that's going to be out after this year. So you're looking at either the 48 car, or you're looking at maybe the 14 car. And that's really about your 2 openings that we got so far for next year. So as far as Eric Jones, I think Hendrick makes the most sense, and it's going to be, coming down to dollars and cents as to, what kind of sponsorship can he bring? Does an existing Hendrick partner line up with Eric Jones? Does he bring over sponsors from JGR? And it's that's kind of the business side of things, as the logistics of it is, can they financially support Eric Jones to go to Hendrick Motorsports? The New York Yankees of NASCAR. So, but I think it's not far off. I think it's not a stretch to see Eric Jones going to Hendrick Motorsports. I'd love to see that. Maybe he can get paired with a real crew chief this time and, actually get more wins, maybe try to get his first career win, according to Rick Allen. But so, no, I think it's not far off.
And Dalton, want to hear your take. I think you were saying before the podcast that Eric Jones may be going to a different spot.
Well, I'm starting to think the 48 would make a lot more sense. I mean, I know the 14 could be a possibility, but I could see Stewart-Haas doing 2 things with the 14. I don't think Boyer will come back unless, I could be surprised. I mean, it's silly season. Mm-hmm. It's full of surprises, but I could see either Tony Stewart hiring Chase Briscoe or probably putting Kyle Larson. I don't know if he'll actually hire Kyle Larson. I could see Chase Briscoe coming to the 14 more than Kyle Larson. Mm-hmm. But you see, I actually remember that Joe Gibbs wanted to sign Eric Jones for an extension because Toyota's wanted to be loyal to him. They wanted to keep him. So I was expecting an extension. But, with the Levine Family Racing shutdown, that kind of opened the door. That kind of made Joe Gibbs, make that decision to, okay, you know what? I'm getting Eric Jones out of here. I'm putting Christopher Bell in because, Toyota's another Christopher Bell is another driver that Toyota wants to keep, that they're loyal to. So the 48 would start to make sense. And I remember before the show, we talked about stuff I didn't know about. You said that Ally, was from Michigan. Mm-hmm. Eric Jones, Michigan native. And then I think he said something about, I don't know, like their agents or something like that. Like
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson and Eric Jones have the same agent, so
yeah. So that would start to make sense. I mean, I don't know where else he would go. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Hendrick would make that move. To be honest with you, I figured they would want to go with an old veteran. I mean, of course, we all thought it was going to be Brad Keselowski, but with him having a good season this year, I mean, I don't see why Penske wouldn't resign him. So, but yeah, I think the 48 would make a lot more sense now than it has been before.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for Eric Jones because I think if Levine Family Racing stayed open, and Bob Levine tweeted at this multiple times during the coronavirus shutdown of how financially hard it hit the team. Like, yeah, they weren't running as well as the 4 JGR cars, and they weren't getting as much support. But when it really came down to it, the main reason why they shut down was because they had those 10 weeks off, and when you're not pulling in any money, you're spending whatever excess money you had, and all of a sudden you're out of money. And so that's the big reason why they're shutting down. So I think if they had stayed open, we could have seen more of a chance of Eric Jones either going to, them doing a swap where Eric Jones goes to the 95, or them just stay where they're at. But I think Toyota, as you look at it, Toyota is a lot more committed to Christopher Bell, and that's why they're putting him in 20, because they don't want to let Christopher Bell slip away. Like, they see it as like a generational talent, and they don't want to let him slip away to some other manufacturer or other team or something. They want him in a Toyota car, and it's just unfortunate for Eric Jones to end up on the wrong end of the stick again. So, but maybe next year won't have mechanical failures with 3 to go.
It's almost interesting with Eric Jones because he was, you could say he was rushed up to the Cup Series. For back-to-back years, he won the Rookie of the Year in the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. So he didn't spend more than one season in trucks, did not spend more than one season in the Xfinity Series before he was in the Cup Series. Granted, he did win the Truck Championship. He should have won the Xfinity Championship. And in the Cup, he ran pretty well in that 77. I would say, honestly, him and Bell are pretty equal when it comes to the satellite team in their rookie year. I'd say it's about equal. Both of them probably – well, Eric Jones didn't make the playoffs. I don't think Bell's going to make the playoffs unless I'd say Dover's his one shot because he's actually been pretty good there in the Xfinity Series. So if he could sneak a win there, he'd get in because he's way too many points out. He's over 100 points out now. That's way too much to make up in 4 races.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think Bell I think for him it's adapting to the longer races almost because he is really good in the first half of these races, and then it's just like something happens to him. It might be just the Eric Jones effect. It seems like 5 or 6 times this year, Christopher Bell has turned the DNF into saving the car. How many times have we seen Christopher Bell drifting throughout the the turns, a whole corner, and it's the car control the kid has is insane, and that's what's going to get him the ride. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins a few races next year if he gets Jason Ratcliffe with him.
Mm-hmm.
That was also another disadvantage with Eric Jones is he never got a Jason Ratcliffe to work his way up. It was Chris Gale the whole time.
Yeah, he got some bum.
Chris Gale has been noted to block people that ask him about their performance and his performance on the box. It's interesting, but I wish if Levine Family Race didn't shut down, give Bell another 1-year contract in the 95 and give Jones another 1-year contract at Gibbs. You give Jones a new crew chief just like you did with Hamlin and see if something changes. Obviously, that hasn't happened. Eric Jones has run up front a lot this year. And like I said before the podcast, if he finished where he runs most of the time, he'd be a top 10 in the points. It wouldn't even be close. So hopefully he proves Gibbs wrong and goes to another team and kind of pulls a Logano and starts winning right off the bat and becomes a championship contender. But enough of Jones and Bell. We did have Tyler Reddick announce he's staying in the 8 car next year with Richard Childress Racing. It was funny because the day before it was announced, we did our recording, and Caden had said that he thought Reddick was going to stay with Richard Childress Racing instead of him going to Hendrick. And then the next day it was confirmed Tyler Reddick come back to Richard Childress. Steve, do you think this is the right choice for Tyler Reddick, or do you think he should have explored the option of going to Hendrick?
Man, I don't know. I think if he had a choice to kind of see what was open at Hendrick, I think he should have taken it, honestly. But I will say that his performance has really been outperforming what we've seen out of Richard Childress the last couple of years. Like with Reddick's he's really close to pointing his way into the playoffs as a rookie, and has done a lot more in a Richard Childress car than we've seen pretty much since, you could say Ryan Newman 2014, even before that with Kevin Harvick. So I think definitely getting the second year in at Richard Childress, and if he keeps Randall Burdett as his crew chief, that's only going to help him, and I think he'll be able to contend for more wins like he has already a couple times this year. So I think it's not a bad move because when you go, like if he had went to the 48, he would have had a new crew chief, new team. You would have had to restart all that chemistry again. So if you could just continue to build off of what you already have, I think it can only help. It can't hurt at all. And so I think we'll be able to see Reddick solidly. If he doesn't get in the playoffs this year, I think he'll be solidly in the playoffs for next year.
It'd be so funny. He'd go from Brad Keselowski Racing to Junior Motorsports to RCR to Cup Series, and back to Hendrick, man, and the Cup Series. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But another guy that's just sitting there, Bubba Wallace. We heard before the race on Sunday that Bubba he's got an offer from Chip Ganassi Racing, which is shocking. You never hear that. You never hear, oh, well, I got an offer from this team. So do you think he's announcing that because he wants to pull leverage on RPM to give him more? Or is that just an indication of Bubba maybe reaching out, like saying, well, Chip Ganassi's offered me something. Rick, are you going to offer me something? Because with Rick Hendrick, he's going to get the guy he wants. Rick Hendrick always gets the guy he wants. He makes sure it happens. I mean, he stole Dale Earnhardt Jr. from Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
Joe Gibbs really wanted Dale Jr. And he had to settle for Kyle Busch. He had to settle for him.
I think Joe Gibbs worked out better in the end. So.
Yeah. Because Junior denied it for some reason. I mean, it was a big offer. I don't know if you watched the podcast of Dale Jr. and Joe Gibbs, but it was Dale Jr. going to Dan Snyder's house, the Redskins owner, and Joe gave him a contract, and apparently it was too much, and Dale was like, we got to get out of here. I'm like, why would you not take that? But I don't know why he made that decision. I don't know why that scared him so much, but, it worked out for my driver, so.
Now, I want to bring that up before we get into Bubba Wallace. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. It was one of the what-if scenarios, and it's going around everywhere. We kind of did it almost first. We were like the first ones to talk about it. And then, I think the Iceberg did a video on it, and NASCAR Race Hub's going to talk about it, I think, tomorrow. What do you think would have happened if Kyle Busch stayed at Hendrick for his whole career? What do you think he'd be better, worse, kind of the same?
That's always a tough question for me to answer. First of all, Kyle and Hendrick didn't really bond together. This is back when Kyle was a really big hothead. I admit it. But, Joe Gibbs kind of made Kyle the guy he is today. He helped Kyle mature a lot over the years. Joe Gibbs is a guy who likes to live his faith through Christ or live his life through Christ. And, he's just one of those people that try to get people help, and Joe Gibbs is a big part of the reason why Kyle has matured so much over the years. I feel like if Kyle would have stayed at Hendrick, I don't think, Kyle would have matured that much over the years, but at the same time, I feel like he probably would have won a championship earlier, a little bit earlier in Hendrick, but, again, with, Kyle's attitude back in the day, and him and Hendrick not bonding, I just don't think it would have lasted long either way. So, he could have stayed at Hendrick a lot longer, but, again, he would not be there like right now. He probably could have stayed there for, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 more years, probably 4. But, after that, he would move on.
Because if we talked about every single thing that would have happened because of that, we'd be here all day, all night.
Yeah.
We talk about, does Mark Martin come to Hendrick in 2009? Do do they swap crew chiefs going into 2011? Would Alan Gustafson work with Jeff Gordon? Would Kyle Busch have been stuck with like Lance McGrew
Jesus.
or some guy like that? So
Talk about another bum.
so that it's just interesting. I think Kyle Busch, I agree. I think he would have won a championship. Just the way Hendrick was in the first half of the 2010s, they were a step ahead of Gibbs. Especially in like 2014, 2013, Hendrick seemed to pick up the Gen 6 car a lot quicker than Gibbs did.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And in 2012, you had that Jeff Gordon-Kyle Busch battle all the way down to the final laps at Richmond for the last chase spot, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Bobby Labonte laying oil all the way around the track at Watkins Glen.
And Dave Rogers at Richmond, he friggin' blew that for us.
Oh, yeah. Now, we have our friend, he always says how stupid Dave Rogers is. He, like, handed that one to Jeff Gordon and Richmond.
He did. He was the worst crew chief Kyle Busch has ever had. I'm so glad they're not together anymore.
Yeah, Dave Rogers now with Riley Herbst. I like to blame Dave Rogers a lot for Riley Herbst not being able to succeed right off the bat. But, you know, back to Bubba Wallace, though. I'm kind of intrigued. Dalton, where do you see Bubba next year? Do you see him in a 43, the 42, or do you think someone comes out of nowhere and snags him?
Did you guys know that Bubba already has ownership stake with Richard Petty Motorsports already?
Yeah, they released that information this weekend at some point that he already had it. Somebody confirmed it. Bob Pockris confirmed that on Sunday, actually.
I don't know how long that was or how long that's been happening. But, you know, I think with that being said, I mean, I don't see why you would want to leave now, you know, especially with that ownership stake. If I had to guess, you know what, that big stuff he's talking about, either maybe a big-time sponsorship that could help him, or maybe, just maybe bear with me, they could be merging to Toyota. I have heard, call me crazy, but I have heard rumors about them probably merging with Toyota, maybe a Joe Gibbs Racing Alliance. You know, again, I could be completely wrong, but, you know, that's just what I've been hearing. But, you know, it's hard for me to say that Bubba would leave Richard Petty Motorsports to go to the 42 when he already has that ownership stake. So, Bubba Wallace leaving Richard Petty Motorsports now, I think that's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, I agree with Dalton. I think, you know, you're already invested a little bit into an ownership, and I think Bubba is, in my mind, how I view Bubba is I think I see him as committed to not only to Richard Petty, but, you know, he already has that good relationship with Jerry Baxter, and you know, and even in some of his post-race interviews, even after that 9th place finish at Michigan, you know, he was hinting at, like, if we can get this deal done, it's going to be big. Whether that's a sponsor, whether it's a contract, whether it's more ownership. I just don't see Bubba leaving the 43. I think he's committed to building Richard Petty Motorsports into something a lot bigger and hopefully more successful. Like I want to see Bubba Wallace succeed and bring that 43 back into victory lane where it belongs.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you know, but it wouldn't be a bad thing if Bubba Wallace went to Ganassi. I mean, obviously that's better equipment right now. So I don't know. It's you know, these are always the fun talks to have. It's like you always speculate who's going where and who's doing what. But I don't see Bubba Wallace leaving Richard Petty. I think he's going to stay there next year.
I'm just waiting for that one bombshell silly season news to come out, whether it's a team switching, like Dalton said. Imagine if Richard Petty Motorsports switches to Toyota and goes into alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, that'd be insane. And then you get all the stupid fans. I'm gonna call them stupid fans.
The boomers.
Yeah, that are like those Yoders. Man, they're most Japanese, you know, cars out there. And they're like, well, they're just going to run another team into the ground. Like, it's Joe Gibbs' fault that Furniture Row and Levine shut down because Joe Gibbs went in there with the intent to just take over their team and run them to the ground.
Look, I love how idiots are blaming Joe Gibbs Racing for all them shutdowns. Well, I mean, I will admit Furniture Row getting shut down was a big part of it, you know, because they made the parts for Furniture Row a lot more expensive than it needed to be.
Yeah.
But, you know, what people forget is that 5 Hour Energy, one of Furniture Row sponsors at the time, left. They did not want to come back, and they couldn't find any other sponsors. So that was a big part of it. And also, Joe Gibbs Racing had nothing to do with Levi Family Racing getting shut down because the equipment they had to buy was nowhere near as much as what Furniture Row was. And of course, with this pandemic, that was kind of hard on Bob Levine to, keep the company running, unfortunately. And man, I hate that for Bob Levine. Such a good dude. He's really nice to people. He's one of the greatest guys on Twitter. He always likes to interact with the fans. He doesn't deserve this. I don't understand why good people like him this has to happen to him, But again, it's just funny how everybody has to blame Joe Gibbs. I mean, I do admit, Joe Gibbs makes cutthroat decisions. There's a lot of speculation into Carl Edwards, but that's another discussion for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also the Eric Jones thing. I forgot to mention. Eric Jones. He said he was blindsided about the news. I mean, like I said, Joe Gibbs Racing wanted to keep Eric Jones, but with this Levi Family Racing shutdown, it kind of made Joe Gibbs force him to make that that cutthroat decision, saying, you know what, I'm kicking you out. I'm putting Christopher Bell in. That's just it's business, I know, but again, you should be blaming. Joe Gibbs is not to blame for all of what's going on.
Well, clearly, according to NASCAR fans, Joe Gibbs started coronavirus and should be blamed for everything. 150,000 people have died, and Joe Gibbs is the one to blame for that.
That's the same people on Facebook that think that NASCAR banned the national anthem and the prayer before the race. I'm like, where are you getting this information?
Going back to Bubba Wallace, could you imagine? So you have the fans already hating Bubba Wallace because of his skin color, which is ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing. And then they hate Toyota because they were originated in Japan. So could you imagine Bubba Wallace in a Toyota? That's just the perfect combination for their heads to explode.
I want to see that so bad. Now that you just mentioned it.
It's so. I've been very vocal about, and we've had guests like the Iceberg come on and say the fans here are one of the worst any sport when it comes to fans. The fans, they're not very educated when they come up with stuff. They just go on a whim, and it's just such a bad look. It's just such a bad look for people on the outside trying to get into the sport, and all they see is this toxic energy from the fan base. It's like, how are you going to get into it if you can't even relate with fans? What all they do is complain. They don't take anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, settle down. Like people with the package, it's like, okay, you complain about it for a couple weeks, but you doing it every time. Obviously, it's not going to change what NASCAR does to the package. They're not going to change the package this week because people on Twitter and Facebook were complaining about it.
Well, they don't even look at Twitter. They just look at their useless fan councils.
Yeah.
With their biased answers, might I add.
Yeah, the fan councils that they don't use and they don't change anything with. I love how people were starting to speculate stuff this year when people got the fan council surveys. And it was talking about Fox Sports booth, how was Adam Alexander? How was Clint Boyer? How was Brad Keselowski and all that? People were trying to speculate, are they going to lose their job if we say they sucked? I don't get it. The fans just.
And the unfortunate part is I felt like we were making a lot of progress. Even I remember after this year's Daytona 500, when we were waiting on updates for Ryan Newman, and you saw so many fans be like, hey, I just watched my first NASCAR race. I loved it. I love how, inclusive everybody is and this, that, and the other. And then it's really after Talladega where that whole situation with Bubba Wallace and the noose in the garage area really took place. And now everyone's thinking that, Bubba Wallace, set it up. He's trying to get attention, this, that, and the other. And that's really the unfortunate part because, Bubba's such a down-to-earth, good guy, and doesn't deserve any of this, and nobody deserves to go through anything like that. But just to get all this hate for nothing, and to think that your whole life is falling apart just because they're banning the Confederate flag, which doesn't belong anywhere to begin with, and I don't know. I could go on all night about it because I've been very vocal on Twitter about just how disgusting comments, how many there are out on social media platforms. So I'll save that for another day. But it's just very unfortunate. and wish Bubba Wallace the best. I hope he gets in a good ride and wins lots of races and championships and tells him to shut all the hell up. So
Yeah. See, Bubba Wallace, I feel like we've got a lot more mainstream this year because of Bubba and what he's trying to do. And listen, I hate when my favorite sport, gets controversial with politics, stuff like that. Like, no matter what side you're on, I always wanted to stay out of it. But when Bubba started this movement on banning the Confederate flag, I wasn't ready for the fallout, to be honest. I mean, I agree with him, but I didn't want to hear like an outbreak from fans, But what it really did is that it opened the eyes of new African American and gay fans. Fans that we need, because I'm sick and tired of the whole NASCAR's full of white rednecks, stereotype. We want to prove to the world that we're not a white only sport. We want more black fans, we want more gay fans, and people, minority fans, people like that. And what Bubba Wallace is doing is actually bringing them in there. Like that Bernard Poland Jr. guy, that former NFL player. He's hooked on it now. Yeah. Because of Bubba Wallace. And that's just what I need. We need more people like him. And what Bubba Wallace is doing for the community is really good, and it's bringing a lot more fans in. So, we don't deserve a guy like Bubba Wallace. I applaud him for all the stuff he's been doing this year. I hope he keeps it up. And the way people are, the misinformed people that are saying all this stuff is just ridiculous. I mean, and most of them don't even watch NASCAR or know anything about NASCAR, and they have no right to say about Aubrey Huff.
Exactly.
But you went to the All-Star race as well, and seeing like clowns having the Confederate flag on a plane, in the back of a plane, like, get over yourself. Like, and we saw some on houses. I was driving to New Hampshire, and on this house, like, the windows are just covered with Confederate flags. Like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes no sense to me either. Like, I understand it. They have this heritage, they want to say. First of all, they weren't even alive for that. But second of all, you drive up north, like, so I'm in Minnesota, and I'll drive up to northern Minnesota and see Confederate flags. Like, that was nowhere near the South.
Yes.
Like, Minnesota was very much in the Union, so
it's always been the United States of America up there. Never the Confederate States.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's just people. I'm done talking about these losers. Like, they just can't stomach them. And other losers and stuff for people that are like, people like this, you're like, oh, Kyle Busch sucks now. Yep, Kyle Busch just falling off a cliff. He sucks. And so I'm gonna ask you, I want an unbiased answer.
Okay.
How many wins does Kyle Busch get this year?
I don't even know, man. I mean, I will say this: I think the speed is there finally, but it's just what happens is either one, he shoots himself in the foot, or he runs into someone's mess. I mean. But another thing is we're not good enough to beat the 4 car or the 11 car right now. Those guys are the top guys in the sport right now. Kyle's has nowhere near the speed as they do. But, I mean, if he can get a win, that could start something. All he needs is one win at any time of the season, and he's going to get going, and usually gets 5 a year. But, considering how this year's going, I did say that if Kyle does not have a win by the Dover doubleheader, then I'm already calling a early exit, because especially with Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Roval all in one round. Kyle sucks at Vegas. He even sucked there when they had practice back in February. He ran 15th all day, and that's exactly where he finished. Talladega, you know how he is on the super speedways. I mean, he has fast. He's been bringing fast cars to the super speedways lately, but he just never has the luck to be there at the end and compete for the win. The 500, he had a fast car, was going to win it with 18 to go. The motor blows. And at Talladega, he had a fast car, and him and Ricky Stenhouse were doing great together. Now, they weren't going to beat the Penske cars because they were the best cars that day, but then he had that contact with Quinn Half, and then they didn't listen to him about coming back to pit road and fixing the tire rub, and then blew the tire. And then, of course, the Roval, where his best finish was 34th. But anyway, if he can get a win before the Dover doubleheader, I think I'm going to say probably one to 3 wins at the least. I don't think it's going to be a 5-win season this year by the looks of it. It's probably going to be another down year. But, I mean, if he can get a win, and he could have a playoff run like Tony Stewart did in 2011. I mean, who knows? But all it's going to take is one win, and he'll be back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, I can't motivate myself for another 5-win or 8-win season. So I'm gonna play it safe and go 1 to 3. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's just where it's leaning right now.
Yeah, I watch Kyle Busch, and right now it's kind of they're off from the 11 and the 4. The 4 and the 11 are there every week. And you brought up that round, the round of 12 with the Roval, Dega, and Vegas. And that's a trouble spot for Denny Hamlin. That's why I feel like Denny Hamlin needs to start getting more playoff points if he doesn't have enough. But for him, that round is such a dangerous round. He's never been anywhere near the front at the Roval.
Yeah. See, that's another thing. Kyle only has 1 playoff point.
Yeah.
What's that going to do? I mean, Denny Hamlin has 29.
Yeah.
He could win the regular season championship if he wanted to, if he can get more wins than Kevin Harvick.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Hamlin should be fine. But, Kyle's going to have to survive. I mean, he'll make the playoffs. He'll make it past the round of 16. The round of 16 is usually just Colchester.
That's 3 good tracks for Kyle Busch, too. That's Darlington, Richmond, Bristol. I mean, those are right in the wheelhouse for Kyle Busch.
He'll still have to survive. But if he can start off good at Darlington, like a top 10 finish at least, then he'll do all right at Bristol and Richmond and do good enough to get past the round of 16. But when it comes down to the round of 12, he's going to have to survive. But then when if he somehow does get out of the round of 12 and he goes to the round of 8, it's anything goes. If we make the Final Four, hooray, let's go win the championship. If we don't, then try again next year.
Yeah, it could be the first year since 2014 since if we don't see Kyle Busch in the championship 4, which would be pretty big. And Truex doesn't look like he's a lock too, and Truex has been there a lot. Logano's been there a lot. No locks there. Really, outside of Hamlin and Harvick, you could say Keselowski, but Keselowski hasn't had the best cars every week, week in and week out. Realistically, he's only got the 1 win that he really earned. He didn't really earn the first 2 wins. So, honestly, outside of Harvick and Hamlin,
Yeah, for a while there we were talking about Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman being threats to get into the Final Four, but they're way off too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a struggle for even the Hendrick cars to get through the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see who the championship 4 are. It would be highway robbery if Hamlin and Harvick are not battling out for the championship come Phoenix. But enough for way down the road. Let's go to this week's race picks for the Daytona Road Course. I don't know how you can't. There's like no strategy to pick in here. Honestly, anyone's pick is as good as the others unless you're picking Quinn Alf. So, as the guest, Dalton, you get to pick first. You got 40 guys to pick from.
I said this before we went on. It's kind of hard for me to look forward to the Daytona Road Course without practice. I hope everybody's testing on the iRacing simulators. But, okay, look, normally I don't do this. And normally, with the season we're having, it hasn't been the best pick to do. But you know what? I got to pick Kyle Busch for this weekend. I know I'm probably biased. I'm a Kyle Busch fan. Well, Kyle Busch is the only guy with the Daytona Road Course experience this year. Now, I know the IMSA cars and the Cup cars are 2 completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle has mentioned that before when they announced the Daytona Road Course. But, I think with him running the Rolex 24 back in January this year, I think that kind of helped him, get a feel of what he kind of has to expect, coming into this weekend. So I really don't think Kyle picking Kyle to win the Daytona Road Course would be a bad bet. So yeah, just give me Rowdy, only because of the Rolex 24 ran back in January.
If you believe in due, Kyle Busch is due. So it's not a bad pick. If you think someone's going to pick up a track that nobody else knows, Kyle Busch has got to be up there towards the top of the list. So, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Kyle Busch going to victory lane this week. Steve, on the other hand, had a rough week last week.
Yeah.
He picked Logano and Blaney. Some rough races for those guys. So, you get to pick second today, Steve. Who we got?
Yeah, well, So let's see, Kyle Busch off board. It's all right. I wasn't going to go Kyle Busch anyways. My logic is telling me to go with somebody like Kevin Harvick, but I'm actually going to go with the guy that's got 2 wins at the race that they should be at, Watkins Glen, and won the Roval last year. I'm going the 9 of Chase Elliott.
Yeah, just take my pick.
Yep.
Not bad, not bad.
I did that to Kevin last week. I'm going to do it to you.
That's what I get for getting the win last week of Harvick.
That's right. That's right. No, I think, Chase Elliott has really been picking up road course as well. And I think, nobody knows. We're going to have no practice out on the track. And so it's just kind of a toss-up as to who's going to get it. And I think with the 2 wins at Watkins Glen and the win at the Roval last year, I think Chase has got a good shot. And it's just Daytona, and the Elliott name always goes good at Daytona. So I think Chase Elliott will pull one out this weekend.
Not bad.
So my pick is going to be the guy we remember back in 2018, the first ever running of the Charlotte Roval. This guy should have won the race.
Jimmy Johnson.
If it wasn't for some talentless loser in the 48. Martin Truex Jr., he had that race won. He's had a couple taken away from him at Watkins Glen. He's dominated Sonoma. People don't really know Martin. They don't label Martin Truex Jr. as a road course guy, but obviously he's doing something right. He even won back in the 56 car at Sonoma. So Martin Truex Jr. is going to pick this track up. You're going to put him right down. He's going to dominate the day. I think he might sweep the stages if strategy allows for it. I don't even know what the strategy is going to be. God only knows when you're going to pit and when you're not going to pit.
Yeah, so just get through the first turn. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
But I'll go Martin Truex Jr. He's going to give me another win. He's going to give me number 4 on the show. He's going to give me my 4th win on the show. I think, we're tied now, or do you have 4 wins?
I believe I have 4 last time I counted.
No,
I'll get an accurate count next week.
Yeah, we'll double check that because I got 3, I believe, and
all I know is that Kevin is still not on the board yet.
And he won't be on the board because he decided to ditch the podcast tonight.
Streak ends at 15.
For something silly, too. Not even for work-related reasons. Unacceptable. Might have to suspend him. But
I do have one more question for Dalton, though. And I'm sure other people have been wanting to know this, too. Out of all the, Kyle Busch 56 wins, doesn't have to be ones that you've gone to, but out of all the wins that he has in the Cup Series, what has been your favorite one to watch so far?
You know what? This isn't one I have been to. It's hands down Homestead 2015. It's, that was undoubtedly the best weekend of my entire life. So this was actually the year I was supposed to graduate high school, this was my senior year. And my family always does, like, for my sisters, graduation presents or graduation trips. Like, we take them, wherever we want to go. And we decided to use my graduation present early by going to Homestead. My mom made a promise saying, hey, Dalton, if Kyle goes to Homestead or makes the championship 4, I'll take you to Homestead. And sure enough, Kyle made it. So what me and my mom did was that we bought plane tickets to Orlando. Me and her spent the first 2 days at Disney World. And then on early Sunday morning, we drove all the way from Orlando to Miami to go watch Kyle win the championship.
Awesome.
And man, just being there, at the beginning of that 2015 season when Kyle broke his leg, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know when he was going to be back. I mean, I thought the season was over right away. I didn't think anybody could come back from that injury. Because I heard August, I heard July. I thought, you know what, we're done. But he came back very quick, and not only did he want to come back to get in the race car, but he wanted to be there for the birth of his son Brexton.
Yep.
And sure enough, he was able to heal that quickly and get back in it. And then after Michigan, where he finished 43rd, he couldn't afford any more DNFs. I thought it was really over. And we go to Sonoma 2 weeks later, a track that Kyle struggled at the past couple of years. Finally got that win, and then after Daytona, he goes on a 3-win streak. And I thought, you know what, we're back in this. I mean, we got a shot now. He's got to survive to Homestead somehow and get to that championship 4. And, with me being there, my first ever championship race, Jeff Gordon's final race also, it was just a historic day. And me sitting in those stands, watching Kyle take it home, when back in February, I didn't even think I was going to be here, it was just a special one. I never cry in racing, but that day, I had no choice but to cry, man. That was just a special moment. But yeah, hands down, the 2015 championship was my favorite college win of all time. With me being there and the uncertainty and all the stuff we went through that year, I don't think I highly doubt any other win will top that.
Yeah, that's awesome because I know I know everyone has a different race that they love. I'm sure for Dom and myself, the 2015 Martinsville race, hands down, that's one of my favorite races.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that's about the only race that I've ever cried after. But man, I was sobbing like a little kid because I felt like Jeff Gordon just won the championship that night.
Yep.
So it's awesome. Every fan has a different race. So I always like to pick their minds, like, what always stands out is number one. So
yeah, definitely those races. Those just enhance your fandom for a driver, for the sport. Just, some of us, like, I'm sure a lot of people, they, kind of live by the sport. Like, your mood is set by how your guy does. Like,
yeah.
Yep.
if your guy does good and wins, like, that whole week, you get to you're just on that high of the win. Your guy gets wrecked. It's like, oh man, this just sucks. Like I know for me, like Denny Hamlin wins, I'm making sure I'm tuning into Race Hub, see the winners recap and Radioactive for that week because you're going to get some good stuff from the winner. And then he gets wrecked. He's like, I don't even want to see this. Like if Joe Logano wins, I don't even want to watch Race Hub. I don't want to talk about Joe Logano. But
dude, I'm the same way as you. I do the same thing. But unfortunately, I have not been able to do that this year so far.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but can we just get something started so I can be happy again? It has been a good year for me in sports. Kyle's winless after winning the championship last year. My Predators didn't even make the playoffs. I hate the Coyotes. And Carolina Panthers, I'm probably in for another disappointing season, just like the past couple of years. And I mean, I got my Vols, but they said they're going to play, but with that 10-game conference-only schedule, I'm not expecting much. But just not a fun year to be a sports fan in 2020.
No, but I think it'll all work out. My Rangers got the 1 pick, so that's looking good for them. Steve and I don't even get to watch our college football team this fall. No Gophers, no Rutgers. Maybe they're saving me with the Rutgers part. They might be saving me some.
Well, you could play in the spring. Hopefully, that's what they're talking about. But I don't know how they're going to do that. The ACC, SEC, and Big 12 all want to play in the fall, but then Big 10 wants to move to March.
Yeah, it's just a mess. People don't even know if they're going to school like for classes. It's just it's wild, and you can't even predict anything. Like tomorrow could bring a whole new set of circumstances. You just got to you can't take it for granted. Like with racing back, it's been great. They've been able to handle it all pretty well. And now, you still got to appreciate every race because you never know if somebody gets it in the field and it ends up spreading, that could end the season.
Yeah.
And you don't know. So you just got to take what we got and keep enjoying it. Even with the struggles of the 18, I'm sure you're just happy this, racing's back and just been able to keep chugging along like they have. One of the best sports to do it without, having a bubble to be constrained under to control the virus. So I think it's all been pretty well done by NASCAR, and I think other sports need to really follow their protocols because you look at the Major League Baseball, they're having outbreaks in teams.
They're not doing so good.
Yeah, could you imagine if like Kyle Busch got the virus and like his whole team just got it? Like that just like I feel like the sport wouldn't be able to keep going like that if a whole team went out. Like luckily when Jimmy Johnson got his, we don't even know if it was a true positive test because of how quickly he came back and tested negative. So,
well, you got to give him credit. I mean, he took precaution. Even if he did have it of some kind, he did prevent an outbreak. I mean, because he got it from his wife. He didn't have to go get tested, especially with him not having symptoms. But he basically helped prevent another outbreak from happening. So kudos to Jimmy Johnson for that.
Yeah, and that's all we can do. We love the sport. hopefully we get to the end of this season, and hopefully next year we're all
Back to normal.
at the racetrack and able to interact with everyone another, and get to interact with the drivers again, because that's what the sport's all about. The sport's the best sport when it comes to interacting with the guys and the fans, and that's why I feel like especially with these new fans we're gaining this year, I think if they get out to a track next year, it's just only going to enhance the fandom that they're going to have. And that's really, I don't think you're a true fan until you get to go to a race. It's just, there's nothing like going to the race. It just TV doesn't do it justice.
No. Nope, you gotta go to the games to get a good experience. Like, hockey, for an example. I did not give a crap about hockey back in 2011, but, my stepdad took me to my first game because, we're only 45 minutes out of Nashville, and this is a preseason game of all games to go to. And after I went, I fell in love, and I've been watching Preds hockey ever since. But yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm just ready to get back to normal. I mean, I'm glad we do have a season. I mean, I will admit there are times where Kyle had bad runs. I wanted to cancel the season again because I'm tired of this. But anyway, I'm very fortunate to have NASCAR back. I'm glad, NASCAR's the only sport where they can remain safe for the most part, because they're going to be in their cars. You can just take the green flag and go. But there's one thing that this coronavirus taught me, is just to never take normal life for granted ever again. Never take your sports for granted ever again, because back in Phoenix, we didn't know if it was going to get canceled or not. It didn't look like it. And then next thing you know, it just canceled out of nowhere. So, you just gotta love your sports all you can, because it could be gone tomorrow.
Of course. And I think that's a good way to wrap up the podcast on a good note, knowing that we enjoy our sport.
Yep.
Hopefully we get to finish the season with it. Dalton, thanks for coming on, man. This was so much fun.
Yo, guys, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really do appreciate it. This is a fun show. One of the most fun shows I've ever been on, man. Glad to get to talk to you guys. Hope you all had fun.
Definitely. We'll definitely keep you in mind for the future. We can
All right.
bring you back again.
I'm open.
Sounds good. Steve, hopefully we'll see you next week. Hopefully you're not working again.
Yeah, I know.
We're playing Grand Theft Auto.
I know. Not me.
Yeah.
I'll get on board with that.
And
I won't. If I got a flake, I'm at work. So otherwise, I'm on the podcast.
It's all right.
We're always trying to pull in new guests now, and it's great be able to get the Iceberg on now, being able to get Dalton on, and we have more lined up for the future, and it's an exciting direction. So hopefully, if Kyle Busch makes a run into the playoffs, we can bring you back onto the podcast, and
All right, sounds good.
that's maybe a third championship for Kyle Busch.
Let's see. I'm not ready to pick him a championship favorite yet, but if he could just get something started, if he could just get that one win and get going, maybe we could be there. But I'm not ready to call it. I'm not ready to get ahead of myself just yet. It's a risk I'm not worth taking.
That's right.
Well, yeah, hopefully we're able to confirm our next guest soon.
Hopefully.
We have someone lined up. Hopefully it all goes through. And Dalton, we're holding you to that M&M's mini chug if Kyle gets a win.
It is a promise. I'm just waiting on that win. just keep an eye on my Twitter. I promise when Kyle Busch wins, you will definitely see it.
But yeah, definitely check Dalton out on Twitter at Dalton Good 18. Definitely some great NASCAR content on there. Definitely some controversy on there. We love controversy.
Yep.
So head on over to his Twitter, give him a follow, hit that bell, get his Twitter notifications. I definitely have those on.
Unless you're a Joey Logano fan, that's not the account to follow.
But yeah, thanks guys for coming out. Thanks you all for watching, and we'll see you next time for episode 17 of the 4 and Fuel podcast.
Thank you.